So let's talk about a skill that really separates the pros from the rest of the pack, managing up. Now, this isn't about manipulation or playing sneaky office politics, not at all. This is about transforming the single most important relationship in your career, the one with your boss, into a real strategic partnership where you both win.
I want you to really think about this for a second. When you think about your manager, do you see a roadblock, someone you have to work around? Or do you see a powerful ally who can help you get where you want to go? You know, your answer to that question pretty much defines your entire experience at work. And today, we're going to give you the tools to completely reshape that answer and your career right along with it.
Okay, first things first, we need a major mindset shift. Way too often, we fall into this trap of seeing our boss as a kind of parent figure, someone who gives out rewards and punishments. Or worse, we see them as the enemy. But the people who are truly effective, they see it differently. They see their boss as their number one most important client. And trust me, that one little change in perspective is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
So here's our game plan for the next few minutes. We're going to walk through 5 key stages. We'll kick things off by redefining that relationship with your boss. Then, we'll learn how to decode their behavior, especially when it's difficult. After that, we'll expand your influence, put it all to the test in a case study, and finally, figure out when to play your hand and, just as importantly, when to walk away.
All right, let's really dig into this foundational idea. If your boss is your most important client, what does that relationship actually look like? Well, it's a professional transaction, right? It's a clear, two-way exchange of value.
This slide just lays it all out perfectly. Think of your job as a value exchange. On your side of the deal, you're providing a service. That means your competence, sure, and delivering results, of course. But the real secret ingredient? Giving your boss peace of mind. You make their job easier, and in return, what's their payment to you? It's not just your salary. It's opportunities for growth, it's influence, and it's their protection when things get tough. When you start to see it this way, you're no longer just an employee. You become a strategic partner.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Let's apply this client mindset to those difficult boss archetypes we've all encountered. Instead of just slopping a label on them like bad boss, we're going to decode the fear that's actually driving their behavior. Because once you understand what they're afraid of, that's when you can build a real strategy.
First up, the classic micromanager. You know the type. Their constant checking in, that laser focus on tiny details, it's not actually about you. It's about their own anxiety. Deep down, they have this fear that if they don't control every single little thing, it's all going to blow up in their face, and they'll be the one who takes the fall.
So, the solution isn't to push back and fight for more freedom. That just makes them grip tighter. The cure is to be proactively, almost excessively transparent. You feed their need for information before they even have a chance to ask for it. This constant flow of updates calms their anxiety, it builds a ton of trust, and ironically, it's what ultimately gets them to back off and give you the space you need.
Okay, let's look at another common one, the credit stealer. This manager is operating from a place of insecurity. When you do great work, they don't see it as a win for the team. They see it as a personal threat, like your spotlight might reveal their own weaknesses. It's all driven by professional insecurity, plain and simple.
Now the fix for this is completely counterintuitive. Instead of fighting them for the credit, you actually give it to them, strategically. In a public meeting or an email to senior leadership, you use this shine-up tactic. You say something like, "Thanks to my manager's great guidance, our team was able to hit this goal." This completely disarms their insecurity. It makes them feel safe, and a safe boss becomes a protective boss. And believe me, everyone higher up the chain almost always knows who really did the work.
And what about the boss who's just a really nice person, but they're just not that good at their job? Well, this manager is often painfully aware of their own gaps. They live with this constant low-grade fear of being found out, of being exposed as not up to the task.
Your play here isn't to expose them, it's to support them. You become their indispensable right-hand person, their secret weapon. If they're terrible with numbers, you become the spreadsheet guru. If they can't present to save their life, you build them amazing slide decks. By covering their weaknesses, you create a dependency that quietly shifts the real power and influence in the department over to you, no matter what your job title says.
Okay, so you've started to master managing up, but real, lasting influence doesn't stop there. To truly be effective, you also have to manage expectations and build solid relationships with your peers. We have to expand the playfield.
This simple formula right here, it's one of the most powerful secrets to a successful career. Your boss's satisfaction, and really anyone's satisfaction, isn't just about how well you perform. It's about how your performance compares to their expectation. You could do an amazing job, a solid 8 out of 10. But if they were expecting a 10 out of 10, the result is disappointment.
And that's exactly where the classic under-promise, over-deliver tactic comes into play. When you get a new project, don't just jump and say yes. You negotiate. Ask for a deadline that's a little safer than you think you need. Set the initial expectation at a reasonable, achievable level. Then, when you deliver amazing results ahead of schedule, you consistently look like an absolute rock star.
So what about your colleagues, the people on your level? You don't have any formal authority over them. Your influence here is all about something called social capital, and it works just like a bank account. You make deposits by helping people out, by sharing information, by offering support when they're swamped, and you do it without expecting anything in return. Because you can only make a withdrawal, ask for their help on your big project, when you have a healthy, positive balance in that account.
All right, theory time is over. Let's pull all of these ideas together and see how they work in a messy, complex, real-world situation where you're getting pressure from all sides at once. So here's the scenario. You've just been promoted into a new management role. Your boss is one of those brilliant visionary types, but also totally chaotic, always changing priorities. To top it off, you've got a senior colleague who's been there forever, feels threatened by you, and is subtly trying to undermine you. Sound familiar?
Okay, here is your 3-front action plan. First, for that chaotic boss, you use a tactic called anchoring. When they throw a new top priority at you, you anchor it to the last one. You say, "That's a fantastic idea. To make that happen, we'll need to pause Project A, which you said was our #1 focus last week. Which one should be the priority right now?" This forces them to be clear. Second, to neutralize your rival, you use inclusion. You go to them and proactively ask for their advice on a problem. This simple act shows respect, it makes them feel valued, and it can turn a critic into an ally. And finally, you protect yourself. You create a simple paper trail of key decisions, and you build alliances with other peers. This isn't being paranoid, it's just smart, professional self-preservation.
We have talked about so many strategies for not just surviving, but actually thriving at work. But sometimes the most powerful strategic move you can make is knowing your own limits and recognizing when it's time to walk away.
Look, managing up is an amazing tool, but it is not a life sentence in a toxic job. There are some non-negotiable red flags. If you're being asked to do things that go against your core values, that's a deal breaker. If the stress is wrecking your mental or physical health, it's not worth it. And if you've hit a wall and you've completely stopped learning or growing, that's your signal. It's time to start planning your exit strategy with your head held high.
Everything we've covered today can be boiled down to this simple, powerful framework, ADAPT. It's your roadmap. You adopt that new mindset. Your boss is your client. You detect the fears behind their actions. You act with strategy, not just emotion. You partner with your peers to build your influence. And most critically, you know your threshold. You know your personal limits and when it's time to move on.
So, we've laid out the map, we've gone over the strategies. The power is officially in your hands now. This isn't about just getting through your day. It's about actively taking control and shaping the career you want by turning obstacles into powerful allies. So the only real question left is, who are you going to start with tomorrow?